Now, the first thing I'd like to do is give you some practice tips. One of the most important things is when you learn a piece for the very first time. One of the mistakes I see young players make is they'll start learning one or two measures and then they'll immediately start learning it fast because it's fun. What I have found is a much more successful way of practicing is learn the entire thing slowly at a very slow tempo. I always joke to my students, there is no such thing as too slow of a tempo. I mean, really learn it slow and try to learn the whole thing at that tempo and then gradually speed it up. You'll find it's much better on your kinesthetic memory, and you'll learn the piece actually faster than trying to learn measure by measure and then speeding that measure up. I hope that helps. Another practice tip is sticking. You have to remember when you're playing a piece, you're really developing muscle memory or kinesthetic memory. Sticking is one of those things, and you want to make sure that your brain learns the same sticking every time you play it. It's very common to just play through a piece and whatever sticking happens, that's what you use. But from day one, take a pencil out and write in the stickings that you use. Now, you're going to come upon a spot that like, well, I could use this sticking or that sticking, I'm not quite sure. It's very important to just make up your mind from the very beginning. And here's a hint. You want to practice the sticking that you're eventually going to arrive at once you reach the tempo that it's indicated. So when you come to those spots where you're not quite sure what sticking to use, I would go ahead and just kind of quickly memorize that spot. Usually it's going to be a measure, maybe a beat or two, and then find the tempo that it's indicated. In this case, it's about, in 72, 75. And then just take a metronome and see which is easier. Come up with a couple of versions and practice with a metronome, and you'll immediately be able to figure out, which sticking works better. Write that sticking in, go back to practicing it slow, and over time, you'll develop that sticking, and the piece will become much easier to play. Now, let's talk about some specifics of this piece. One of the things you'll notice, it goes back and forth between 2/4 and 6/8. It's really not that difficult of a concept. Basically, the big beat, or beat 1, is what remains the same. So if I'm going along as 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1. Okay, that's my big beat. I'm going to go into 6/8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Back to 2/4. 1, 2, 1, 2. So the concept's really simple. It's not that difficult. So don't be freaked out about the 2/4 into the 6/8. Now let's talk about some specific spots within the piece. Let's just dive into the most difficult spot that you're going to notice. It's measured 26, 27, 28, and 29. Now I want to break this apart to the way that I practice it. I find it very helpful, and I hope that you will too. Now the first thing let's talk about is that little figure. You're going to see the 3 small notes followed by the primary note. That's what we call a 4-stroke drag. Now a regular drag is a bounce note followed by a primary note. Put those together. That's our regular drag. In this case, we have to play 3 small notes followed by a primary note. One of the most common stickings that people will use is called a Swiss sticking. A Swiss sticking is when I play a single note followed by a double and then followed by that last note, which is the primary note. So I use right, left, left, right because I'm right-handed, so I want to end on my primary hand, which is my right hand. So slow down, it's going to be right, left, left, right. Right, left, left, right. Okay, and I'm going to speed that up. Now, here's an easy way to practice this. If you think of a cheese, okay, now in case you don't know what a cheese is, that is a flam where you bounce the primary note. In this case, it's going to be my left hand because I'm playing a left-handed flam. So I'm going to bounce my left hand. So I'm playing a flam, bouncing my left hand. Then I have to add my primary note, so I'm in my right hand. Now put that together. Now that's a true cheese, but it doesn't sound quite right. So what I have to do is I kind of have to fan my notes out so that they equal or produce this even space triplet. Now the reason I like to practice it or conceive of it that way is it builds in this kind of mini crescendo. So a flam, is got my grace note low, left hand higher, and then I'm going to end with my right hand up here. So all the hands slowly get bigger, and it builds in this mini crescendo. So you can see that with my sticking, with my hands. We'll speed that up. Produces a really nice kind of rat figure, which is what I want. Okay, so now that we've talked about the four-stroke drag, let's put this into context with this piece. So not only do we have a four-stroke drag, but we have to put those in between all these eighth notes around it. All right, so what I have found easier is the most important part is those eighth notes, all right? So I'm right-handed. I'm going to put the eighth notes on my dominant hand. Another thing when figuring out sticking is it's best to figure out a sticking that flows. Best way to flow is make it alternate. Now, I discussed playing it on the right side, but if I play it on the right side, I'm going to end up with this. So I've got right, left, left with the accent on my right. Then I have to play the eighth notes again with my right. Now, I don't want to do that. I want to make everything kind of alternate. So if I reverse my Swiss sticking and make it left, right, right, left, and then that frees up my right hand to play the eighth note. So everything alternates. Okay, so again, I'm going to play the Swiss sticking on my left side, which will be left, right, right, left, eighth note, eighth note. Now I'm set up to go left, right, right, left, eighth note, eighth note. Taking it really slow so you can see what I'm doing. So now that I figured out that's going to help my sticking, here's a really good way to practice it. We talked about the cheese, perceiving the Swiss triplet as a cheese. So it's just a flam, right? So if I think every time I see a four-stroke drag, I'm going to replace it with a flam. And I'm flipping it, so that means I'm going to play a right-handed flam because I'm right-handed. If you're left-handed, you want to reverse everything that I say. All right, so I'm going to play, think of a pickup note into the downbeat, a 1. So I've got ba-da, da, da, ba-da, da, 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 ba-da, da, ba-da, da, da. That's the two measures. So it's going to sound like this. My pickup note's going to be a flam. So I'm going to go. That's 26 and 27. I'll play that again slowly. Now all I have to do is cheese it. Play the whole thing. Nice and slow. Then you just work on speeding that up and getting it soft. So I hope that helps in that section. It helped me. I hope it helps you. Another quick spot that I want to talk about is measure 44. Now, this may look confusing, but it is really simple. You're going to see some quarter notes of the bracket over it with 2. You're in 6/8 at this point, and basically what he's asking you to do is think of this as a duple. It's 2/4. It's simple 2/4 is all it is. So if I'm going along 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and I see 44, it's 1 and 2, and that's all it is. So it looks difficult, easy. The best way to play this is what I call a two-handed press. Now the rolls are kind of quick. So if I play a rhythm, I kind of get this do-got, do-got, do-got. I want brr, brr, brr kind of sound. So I'm going to play two hands and just kind of press them at the same time. Makes it really easy to play. So don't get freaked out about that measure whatsoever. Another spot that I want to talk about is measures 49 and 50. Now when you get into 50, we talked about the Swiss sticking. Here's going to be a sticking that's going to help this section out a lot in 50. We got this. If you'll think of what's called a Swiss triplet. So it's going to be a flam, I'm going to do a right, and then a left. The nice thing about this is it puts my hands back on my right side. It makes the flam sound much more consistent because I'm always landing on my right hand. So if you use a Swiss sticking at measure 50, it will also make it sound a lot better. So the next thing I'd like to do is let you in on a little secret. When you're playing this, a couple things you want to do. Make sure you're playing really solid time, really good in time. I highly advise not just playing with a metronome or practicing with a metronome, record yourself. About once a week, record yourself and do this simple thing. Just tap. Tap your leg, tap your foot, tap along with what you're playing. Because I can promise you the judges that are sitting on the other side of that screen, that's exactly what they're doing. And if it feels uncomfortable, if you have to go, oh, wait, I'm slowing down right there, the judges are going to think the same thing. And you're going to get docked for it. So you want to make sure your time feels very, very comfortable. And it's something you can do on your own. Just record yourself, listen back to it, and tap along with it, and make sure that you have really, really solid time. Here's another helpful hint. When judges are listening and they're trying to decide who's going to win, the things they're listening for is evenness of sound, that your hands sound the same. Time, cannot express that enough. Time. I tell my students this all the time. You have to play with a good time. So you want to do that. Another one is dynamics. There's a couple spots in here. One of those at measure 3. He has pianissimo, 2 Ps. That's really, really soft. So you want to make sure that you're competitive, that when you play soft, you're playing softer than anybody else in the room. I'm going to give you a little secret. dB meter. With today's technology, get an app on your phone called a dB meter. dB stands for decibel. Okay, decibel is how we register volume in a room. Room noise tends to be 40. If you get a dB meter and turn it on and just set it in a quiet room, and it will register about 40. There's actually noises going on that you're not even aware of. It could be the AC unit. It could be even your heartbeat, your breathing will register on a dB meter. It tends to be 40. 70 is extremely soft. 70 is this. Me tapping my fingernail on a drum, if you put a dB meter on a stand, put it about 3 feet away, and just go, you'll see that dB meter fly up to about a 70. So a good range to shoot for is about 80 to 90. So when you're practicing, put a dB meter on your stand, play at measure 3, see if you can make that dB meter register about 80. If you can get it below 80, oh man, you're like superhuman. I mean, that's a really good goal. But that way you have something to kind of monitor your dynamics. 2 Ps, shoot for between 70 and 80. If anything, don't get above 90. 1 P, try to get it between 80 and 90. Maybe a little bit above 90, but try to keep it below that. If you can do that, you're going to be very competitive with your dynamics. So in conclusion, I hope this tutorial helps. I wish you the best of luck. Practice really hard, practice slow, take my advice, and I hope you have a successful audition.